Dixie here. Today I want to share with you some tips that I've learned while vlogging my through hikes that would be useful for somebody who is looking to capture a long distance backpacking trip, a section hike, or even a day hike. First off, I want to say that I am not a professional photographer or videographer. I probably don't know a lot of the technical terminology for some of these things, but these are tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that I felt like have helped me in learning how to capture my journeys. My first tip for beginners is keep it simple to start with. A lot of times people can go into analysis paralysis trying to come up with the perfect setup, and then they just end up with everything too complicated and say forget it. So really you don't even need any sort of fancy camera setup. Usually a camera on a smartphone is pretty good and should get the job done. Plus, most people keep their phone in an easily accessible area, which is gonna encourage you to use it more often because it's easy to access, there's not much to setting up, and then you're more likely to capture things in the moment and as they happen and get more footage that way. Then once you get a feel for things and you decide that vlogging is something that you actually want to continue, you can kind of step it up a notch from there. On the Appalachian Trail, while I was vlogging my trip, I only used my phone the entire time. And then when I went on my next hike, the Pacific Crest Trail, I kind of stepped it up a notch, added a few different pieces of equipment. On the CDT, I did the same thing. And with each adventure, I tried to improve what I'm doing and add some new piece of equipment so I can learn something new. So if you keep it simple to start with, you might save yourself not only time, but money in case you decide, wow, I've bought all of this stuff and decided that I don't really want to vlog my trips anymore. The next tip, which I mentioned in the first one, is that you want to make sure that your phone, camera, whatever you're using to capture your experience is easily accessible. And there are some ways to do that. Obviously, if you're just using your cell phone, you can keep it in a shirt pocket. Also, different companies, including Gossamer Gear, make little attachments to your shoulder straps. I'm sure whatever brand of pack you're using, they probably have some sort of attachment that you can purchase extra and keep your phone on either your shoulder strap or your sternum strap. You could even carry a fanny pack and have your cell phone or other camera in that. And for those of y'all who have a larger camera that you don't want to store in a fanny pack because you want even quicker access than having to unzip it and make all that noise, there is a little attachment that you can put on your shoulder strap called the Peak Designs clip. I use that on the Camino and it is very handy to have it there. When I first got my Sony a7 III for that trip, I thought that I would just use the neck strap that comes with it, but I quickly realized that having a camera right there bouncing on your chest area or even on the upper part of your stomach can kind of make you nauseous and can start to hurt after a while because it's just hitting you all day. So it's really convenient to have that clip there where you can just pull it off of your shoulder and it's not aggravating you. It's something that I got used to pretty quickly, having that big camera there. It was just as conveniently located as my cell phone, and I think that as long as I have a larger camera, I'm gonna continue to use that clip. And by the way, any of the items that I mentioned today, if you wanna check those out in more detail, I'll put links to those in the video description. My next piece of advice is try to stabilize your camera as much as possible. It really doesn't matter if you're shooting with the most expensive and high quality camera ever if all of your footage looks like something from the Blair Witch Project. And when you're hiking and trying to capture things as you're walking, that can be a little tough, but just do the best you can when you can. There are different things like gimbals that you could use to help stabilize while you're walking and talking in selfie mode and all of that. But gimbals can be a little heavy and a little expensive. You can get really stable footage with a GoPro. You could even use something like a trekking pole mount. But I think if you're gonna add one piece of equipment that's gonna serve several purposes and also help with some stability, that would probably be a tripod. I've used a couple of different brands of tripods, but the one that I've really settled upon is the GorillaPod brand. I've had different ones for different weight ranges, depending on how much the camera that I'm putting on it weighs. But I like the adjustability of it. It's got a little ball pivot point at the top, so you can point it up or down or tilt it if you wanted to. And then also the legs are bendable, so you could wrap it around a branch of a tree or kind of fit it to a rock that you're propping it on. You can lower the legs flatter to the ground or raise it up to make it, kind of taller, just to fit whatever situation you're trying to capture. Tripods are also very helpful for time lapses, and if you're gonna capture your experience out in nature, I feel like it should definitely have time lapses in it. They're helpful in a story. So obviously you're not gonna record every single second of your 5-day hike. I mean, I guess you could, but that would maybe not be super entertaining to watch. I don't know, maybe you're a very funny person, but by showing a time lapse of the sunrise or the sunset, you're showing that you're moving on to the next day. And you might think, oh my gosh, well, how much time do you have to spend capturing all of these time lapses? But you can really kind of multi-purpose your time while you're capturing a time lapse. For example, I orient my tent when I wake up in the morning so that the opening of my tent is facing, if I'm in an open area where I could see a sunrise, is facing where the sun will rise. And there are actually some apps that you can use that will help show you, where the sun will travel, so you can orient your tent that way. And then I wake up in the morning and I'll make my coffee there in my tent and watch the sunrise while I've got my time lapse going and capturing, what I'm seeing and experiencing. And for me, because I'm not a morning person, I probably wouldn't make an effort to get up and watch the sunrise near as much if it wasn't that I enjoyed capturing them. And the same thing with a sunset. You can capture that while you're cooking dinner, or, if you're gonna night hike that night, you stop and take a little snack break while you're capturing the sunset. And then during the day, during lunch, maybe there are some really cool clouds going by and it's a chance to sit and have lunch at a really pretty view while you watch some clouds go by and also capture them. So it doesn't have to be something that you're doing with designated time-lapse time. It can just be, you're sitting there watching time go by, so now you can share that with other people too. Having a tripod can also help you capture a different perspective, because a lot of times when people are showing their adventure, they're either in selfie mode talking to the camera, or they have it pointed out showing what they see. So having a tripod can help you capture yourself in the frame of what you're experiencing and in your environment, and show the scale of you to the scenery around you. And then also maybe some of the chores you're doing each day, like collecting water or setting up your tent, cooking dinner, etc. Being able to stabilize your camera with a tripod will also help you with showing it, not just saying it, which is my next point. And what I mean by that is, while you're vlogging, you can say, oh my goodness, it's so cold out here. But what I like to try to do is to show people how cold it is. So maybe I show that the bushes are swaying in the wind, and the wind is what's making me cold. Or maybe I show shots of snow, or just any indication of why it's cold. And I feel like rather than just telling somebody you're cold, you can almost make them feel cold while they're sitting in their living room by just showing them what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. So it's kind of like having evidence to back up what you're saying. Also, if it's hot, you can show a shot of the sun. You can show hikers hiding in the shade, away from the sun and looking exhausted and sweaty and chugging water. But I feel like as you improve your content, having that B-roll to back up what you're saying is helpful. Of course, I like to capture things in the moment as much as possible. Sometimes even after I do record those in the moment things, I'll still explain them later, so that way we've got options whenever we're creating the story. Do I show this thing in the moment, or do I give the explanation and then add those shots that kind of proves the story? Another thing I started doing that I felt like improved the content that I was producing was to capture things in a different way, maybe a different perspective or a different angle, or different things in general. So what I mean by that is, a lot of times people like to capture the vast expanse of the wilderness. You get to this wonderful view and you're just like, whoa, look how pretty this stuff is. But if you mix it up and sometimes show things close up, or maybe a plant in front of the expansive view just to give some depth to your shot, or maybe even things up close in general, like bugs and critters. And if you're using just a cell phone, I found out there is a whole new world out there with a macro lens attachment that I use. It's called the Moment Macro Lens. Again, I'll include these things in the links in the video description, but the Moment Macro Lens just screws onto a case that you put on your phone, and it allows you to capture things like a caterpillar eating and dew on leaves and all sorts of stuff just super close up that in my opinion just opens a whole world of things to record. And instead of just recording things from above, from a giant's perspective, you know, look at this cool lizard or frog, like get down there with it, you know, get down on its level and really make it work it like a little model. Another easy improvement for your footage is to pay attention to the audio. And this doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy a microphone. Maybe if you're just even paying attention to the fact, is there a lot of background noise while you're talking and trying to record that might be distracting, so people are paying attention to that more than what you're saying? Or are you in a really windy area? Then maybe just explain how it's super windy for a little short clip and capture some footage that you can explain, you know, what you recorded later. But that way you don't have a 10-minute video of just like staticky, windy noise. Again, on the Appalachian Trail, I didn't have anything but my cell phone that I recorded with. And then it was either on the PCT or CDT, I picked up a little lav mic, and that's what I use actually to record right now. It's right there. And that helps a little bit with the wind, but I'm still not gonna stand directly in the wind and expect that this isn't gonna make any noise. It just helps a little bit. I usually have this little mic clipped to the pocket of my shirt and plugged into my cell phone. That way, if I pull out my cell phone to record something, the mic's already hooked up. Just something to think about. Might want to mind the wind and other background noises that can be distracting. Next, I've had a lot of people ask me, how are you comfortable talking to a camera? Because when I hold up the camera and start talking to it, I feel like a deer in the headlights. And I'm like, have you seen my first video clip on the channel? My first video on the Appalachian Trail actually was on the approach trail, and I'm like tearing up because I'm just wondering what I've gotten myself into. But also I look like a deer in the headlights because I'm terrified. I'm not comfortable talking to the camera. But like anything else, once you do something for so long, you get better at it. And I think what helped me is that when I look at the camera, I don't look at it as in, oh, I'm talking to this device that's in my face. I look at it like I'm talking to one of my best friends or to my family, because honestly that's what my first intention was to create these videos so that my friends and family could watch what I was doing, and then, you know, eventually also so that other people could learn from the mistakes that I knew I was gonna make. And so I think that's what worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. Just pretend like you're talking to somebody that you know, and that's it. And if you mess up, guess what? You can delete and record again. That's and if you mess up, you can always delete it and record again. And if you mess up, you can always delete and record again, because that's the beauty of it not being live. I feel like I should touch on the etiquette of recording other people. It's not polite to just run up to a stranger, put a camera in their face, and start talking to them on camera and recording them potentially against their will. I don't necessarily just usually walk up to a stranger either and be like, hey, can I record you right now? Typically, the way I go about things is I hike around people for a few days. You know, they get used to the idea that, wow, this girl pulls out a camera and records a lot. And then they might ask, are you recording this for something? And, you know, I'll tell them, yeah, I have a YouTube channel, or yeah, I like to capture my journeys or whatever. And then usually after that, at some point, I'll say, hey, I'm gonna do a time lapse of eating lunch. Do you mind being in it? And if not, that's okay. Like, I always let them know you don't have to do this. And from there, you know, usually people will be like, yeah, sure, I don't care. You can put me on camera if you want to. Or people will be like, no. And I have had people say, no, I prefer not to be on there. And then I contact the FBI and let them know that there's a wanted person. I'm just kidding. But some people are just camera shy. And some people, honestly, even if they do give you permission and you do record them, they get so awkward that, you know, it feels like they probably would rather not be on camera. So it's really one of those things that you play by ear, but make sure to use respect and be polite about it, because people are out there to enjoy nature, not necessarily to be, you know, a character in your vlog. Now, you might meet tramily who love to be people in your vlog, like I did on the Appalachian Trail, and my friend Perk, who went on the PCT and was on the CDT while I was out there, he absolutely loved being a part of it, and I was really grateful for that. But again, you can't force somebody to do that against their will. It's just not really nice. Next, I feel like it's important that the footage that you share is representative of the journey that you experienced. And what I mean by this is, I decided for myself from the beginning that I wasn't gonna show people just the good side and the glorious side of through hiking and hold it on a pedestal. I was going to show them the good and the bad and the struggles that come with it. And that didn't mean that I wanted to turn my channel into this complaining fest of how much I hated it. But, you know, if that is representative of your journey, then that's what you should share. But I think that you have to have bad days to know the good days. And I felt like it was my responsibility to let people know that if you go out on a through hike, it's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes it really sucks and it hurts and is miserable. And sometimes I wondered why I was doing it. But I wanted to show all angles of it. That way people knew what they were getting themselves into. And now I want to cover a couple more things outside of the recording itself. And the first one might seem like a no-brainer, but make sure that you've got enough juice to power the things that you're going to record with. And also for your headlamp, if that's rechargeable, and your phone for purposes of using it to contact people, and inReach, etc., whatever electronic devices you have. Make sure you've got enough of a power bank to cover all of those and some. And I know that this is going to add significant weight to your pack, but if you want the best quality videos to share, then I think that means capturing as much as you can on the journey and not having 2 days left until you get to town and realizing that you really have to start rationing things because you used all of your battery pack, you know, in the first couple of days, and now you don't have any left, but now you're in like the really pretty views and you're thinking, man, I could get an awesome time lapse here. So I always try to carry more than I think I need. I first started off with a little lipstick size battery bank. I moved up to a 10,000 milliamp hour battery pack. Then I went to a 20,000, and now I carry about 30,000 milliamp hours worth of juice to charge all of my electronics, and I think that's a pretty good number for me right now. And finally, I've had folks ask, what do I do with my footage once I've recorded it and now I want to send it off so that Aaron, the editor, can edit it, or if I just wanted to back it up so that if something happened to my phone, I would have it somewhere else, which I failed to do this past summer when I destroyed my phone and didn't have some of my PCT footage backed up. But do as I say, not as I do, if you want to make sure that you keep your footage. Anyway, what I do is I use the Dropbox app, and then in town, especially on 0 days while I'm sleeping at night, I open the Dropbox app and make sure my phone is where it will not go to sleep, because I've found that the app is a little wonky, and if I'm doing anything else on my phone and I don't have the app open and not asleep, that it really won't upload my videos. So anyway, I start my videos uploading, go to sleep, and then I let them do their thing at night while I have my phone charging. If I get footage from my cameras that use micro SD cards, I've got a little Lexar device that plugs into my phone. I transfer those files to my phone and then upload to the app from there. And then from there, Aaron can sign on to Dropbox.com, pull the files off onto his computer and edit them from there. All right, y'all, well, those are the tips that I have gathered from my experiences of waltzing through nature and capturing it to share with others. If y'all have additional tips to add, please leave those in the comments below, because I'm still learning, as I'm sure others are. There's always room for improvement. Thank y'all so much for watching, and if you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe before you go, and we will see y'all next time.